All right, welcome back to week 8 of the Game Time Sports podcast. Unfortunately, last week's episode has taken a while to upload. It's not really our fault. We were on a journalism trip and the hotel Wi-Fi wasn't good at all. And we were there all week and stuff. And so we really couldn't even get started on the whole editing thing because we had really no time to do it. So we're gonna get that out. It should be out before this video is posted at some point, maybe like an hour before. But it's gonna work. We got to get it out there to you guys because I know the information is relevant now, but I mean, still got to get it out there. But again, you can follow Game Time Sports Podcast on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And you can also follow us on our social medias. They're on the screen below us right there for you to check that out. And yeah, so this is just another normal episode. We got the basic, or not basic, the normal 5 segments today. So, Jace, do you have anything before we get started?
No, let's get into it.
All right. Let's get into Riled Up Round Up. We have one topic today. It's a pretty big one. The men's national championship in the NCAA for basketball. It was a couple days ago with UConn and Purdue, and UConn able to come away with a blowout win, 75-60. They've won about 12 or 13 consecutive tournament games by 13 or 12, 14 or more points, or yeah, 14 or more points, which is the record. The second closest is only 6. Jace, how was UConn able to come away with the back-to-back championship win?
Well, what they did was they made Zach Edey just let him do whatever he want, kind of let him get tired, let him score a lot of buckets. They Purdue wasn't in that game for a really long time, but they didn't stay in it because UConn is just so much better in every other position. Like seriously, I mean, UConn annihilates them: point guard, shooting guard, power forward, small forward, the sixth, the bench. All of those are just so much better players. That was why they won that game by a lot. And I mean, I just don't know how anyone's ever going to stop this team. I see a lot of early preseason rankings for next year, and a lot of people have them around the 5 to 8 range, but I still think they should be number one. I don't think there's any way that teams are just going to be able to beat them at this point. I mean, they just look unbelievably unstoppable, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I saw was I see that the that Purdue, the Boilermakers, are way too reliant on Zach Edey. He is their entire team. They are making their focal point on their 7'4" center, and you can't do that because he's so big and he has probably a lower stamina than everybody else, and he's gonna get tired. And that's what happened, and that's why it was close in the first half, was because they can rely on him when he's at the beginning of the game and he's not tired yet and he's been playing for 40 or 35 minutes. And so basically what UConn's plan was, you said it, was focus on everybody else because they have no talent. Or I mean, stop, they'd have talent. They had to get there at some point. But UConn is their guys are way more talented than the other 4 guys on Purdue. And so you just focus on those guys. Let Zach Edey do his thing because he can't beat you by himself. He can get really close, but he cannot he cannot beat you by himself, especially when he gets tired and he's running all these crazy plays that they have for him and stuff. And a 7'4" guy can't do that over and over again for 40 minutes. That's not that just doesn't it doesn't work. So I mean, I just think that not
Yeah.
Purdue, I think UConn outplayed them, and I think they're just the overall better team.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there, kid.
They were. I mean, I told everybody, I said, watch out, UConn is going to be the back-to-back champions. I said that, I think, in our first episode. I said UConn is going to go back-to-back. Nobody believed me. Okay, actually, a lot of people did believe me, but Jay specifically did not believe me. Jace picked Houston to win the whole thing, and UConn wasn't even in the final game.
They won the national championship, actually.
They did. They did.
They were in
Uh,
the final game.
All right. So, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, let's move on to what's cooking, what's hot, hot take of the week. All right. So, our hot take of the week is kind of interesting. It's could the Royals starting pitching propel them to a playoff spot? If you guys do not know, the Kansas City Royals have the number one rotation in baseball in every single category except for strikeouts, which they're second. So they're number one in pretty much every single category except for that one when it comes to starting pitching, and they're off to a hot spark. They're off to a hot spark. Oh my god, they're up. They're off to a hot start. Okay, there we go. The Royals are off to a hot start right now. They're 7-4. They just beat the Astros on a walk-off last night. They swept the White Sox in a 4-game series. They really honestly could have beaten they honestly could have swept the Orioles too. They just lost 2 games because of their bullpen and Will Smith. That is awful for them. But Jace, so yeah, do you think that this incredible starting rotation could propel the Royals to make the playoffs or even win the division? Win the division. I mean, they have a pretty weak division. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, with the loss of Shane Bieber and the fact that we've seen that the Tigers have been kind of overrated, they had a really nice start. But I mean, when you lose a series to A's, as we speak, they're in a 1-1 series with the Pirates, who they're playing really good baseball right now, which is fine. So nothing to worry about there. But I do have definitely some concerns, especially after that A series. Obviously, the Guardians aren't going to be anywhere near as good without Shane Bieber. That's going to be a huge blow to them. And we already knew the White Sox were going to be awful. But the Twins also aren't very good this year. I've noticed that they've been off to a kind of a slow start. So yeah, I think if they keep it up, that bullpen's really got to step up, especially guys like Will Smith in there, Angel Zerpa. Those guys have had rocky starts to the season, really. And if those guys can step things up, I really do think they can make the playoffs. Obviously, their batting has been really solid this year so far, too. It was last year, the batting was not the problem. But if their batting doesn't indeed get better from last year and just all our good players show improvement, I think this really could be an 85 to 90 win team in a playoff bid.
Well, the
Could
well
be on
the
the horizon for them.
well, speaking of the bullpen did have struggles early in the year, but right now they currently have a streak of 16 straight innings without giving a single run up, and like five or what was it? Like 6 of those innings was versus the Houston Astros, and we know how good that offense is. And one of those innings was in the extra innings whenever you have a runner to start the inning off at second base. So with nobody out, which I mean, that's impressive. That's really impressive. The first 4 games are versus the White Sox, it's the White Sox, and that's real difficult or not difficult. That's really easy, you know. But I think that they could. I think they could make the playoffs. I think they could probably win the division because I think that they have the best pitching staff in their division, and pitching is what wins you championships. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship. That's not going to happen, but I think they can make push for the playoffs with them being in such a weak division right now, and and I think that another thing with the Royals right now is that their offense isn't focused on one guy. Like the last couple of years, it's been like, for example, only Salvi or only Jorge Soler or only Bobby Witt Jr. And when those guys aren't performing, nothing, they lose because nobody else on the team can do anything. Right now, when their top of the order isn't doing anything, the back of the order, they're getting the job done. And now the last couple of games they've been coming back. And that's what good teams do is they can when it's close, they can blow people out. They can come back, they win 1-run games, they have good pitching, they got a shut down bullpen, and they got young talent. And so that's what the Royals have right now. So I think a playoff push is a possibility, but honestly, if they get close and don't make it, as Royals fans should be very, very happy about their team.
Yeah, I have to certainly agree with you, Caden. They have been playing just so good so far this year, and I'm excited to see what can come of the season for them. I think it should at the very least be, an 80-win season the way things look right now. But let's keep in mind, this is the Kansas City Royals.
Right.
It's the Kansas City Royals. They'll roiled up and probably lose 100 games somehow, knowing them.
Well, the difference this year, and this kind of goes into how important coaching is this year with a new brand new pitching coach in all right, yeah. So I mean the reason for this change is a new coach and Brian Sweeney as their pitching coach, and that's completely changed because what we've seen in the
Yeah.
past with Royals is either their pitching is bad and stays bad, or it's bad and gets way worse. And their pitching isn't like their bullpen is improved. We don't usually see this in the last 5 or so years from the Royals, is they don't get better, they just get worse, you know. And so I think that in the making improvements that fast, and the fact their bullpen has gotten good in a week, it just comes down to pitching. And I think that they finally got a good pitching coach and stuff. And yeah. So you got anything else to add?
No, let's head on to the next segment, Caden.
All right. So let's move on to Deep Under the Glass. All right, welcome to Deep Under the Glass. And so we have a couple topics for you. The first one is, are the Pittsburgh Pirates for real? So if you don't know, the Pittsburgh Pirates are 9-3 right now, best record in the National League, the second best record in baseball, I think. But they are off to a really really fast. Oh my God, they're off to a really really good start so far. And Jace, do you think they're like for real? Like, do you think they can keep this up?
I don't think they're going to keep this level of play up. Like, if they keep this up, obviously they're going to be like a 100 win team, which would just be absolutely absurd. And I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, I could certainly see them maybe making the playoffs as like a six seed or something, and or maybe just barely missing out. I think 80 wins should be definitely in the good realm of possibilities for them. I think 85 could definitely be possible. I'm just not sure about a playoff spot right now. And I don't think they will win the NL Central, but they look like a really good team, and I'm excited to see what they can do the rest of the season. Their bullpen's been pretty solid in a lot of games, and their batting has really been the reason why they've won these games. Their starting pitching has been a little off at times, but for the most part, obviously they're a 9-3 team. It's going to still be pretty solid if you're winning that many games. So yeah, I kind of think they'll probably be an 80 to maybe 87 or 0 win team this year, and I think they're going to have a really good season.
Yep, I think the possibility is there, but I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure if that'll happen. I mean, like the Royals, we just talked about them, but in 2021, they had the best record in baseball through the month of April, 17-9, lost in 11 in a row. It all fell apart, you know. But I think I don't not sure if that'll happen to the Pirates. I mean, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing their young players are playing really well. Like Brian Hayes, we already know he was good. I mean, he's had a few good seasons in the past, but the real big one is O'Neal Cruz. I mean, last year, whenever he came up to the league and stuff, and we had all this hype, like how big he was, how fast he could throw, how strong he was, how fast this guy is, like all this stuff about O'Neal Cruz, and he didn't really perform very well. And he was also injured, so he didn't really do much. But now he's playing really good. Him and Brian Hayes are doing awesome over on that left side of the infield. And their other offensive players are performing, like Andrew McCutcheon and, like those guys, and Matt Reynolds. And their pitching is good, is actually doing pretty good. They are, and their bullpen isn't blowing them games. And so if they continue to play like that, I mean, I definitely think they could. I mean, they look really good right now. And that NL Central is kind of like the AL Central. It's very weak. The Cubs, I would say, might probably have the best chance to win that division, but the Pirates definitely could make a run for it. I mean, if the Pirates pile up these divisional wins and continue doing what they're doing, they definitely could. But I just don't know with because we've seen teams like this get hot early and they fall apart.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Not too much more to add, but yeah, this team I think will win 85 games. I'm gonna stand on my business here. I think they're gonna be a really good team for their standards, and well, I don't think a playoff berth is gonna happen this year. Like I said, I could see a 6 seed maybe, but I think a playoff berth and definitely next year could be a huge possibility for them.
Well, you never know, because last year we saw an 84 win team go to the World Series. So We'll see.
NL does look a lot stronger this year, I will say, and I
Oh
don't think it
yeah. I mean,
will lose.
you have
Yeah, the Cubs look good.
I mean, you
I-
have Godzilla and King Kong with the Dodgers and the Braves. I mean, that's going to be a
Yeah.
tough fight for
Oh
anybody.
yeah. If that isn't NLCS, I will be unbelievably shocked. If they choke, if they both choke again, I'm going to laugh at them hysterically.
All right. So moving on. So what is wrong with the Milwaukee Bucks? They've had a little bit of a tough slide over the last week, and they're struggling right now. Jace, can you tell me a little about what's wrong with the Bucks?
Well, yes, they did win over the Celtics, which huge win. This Celtics team has probably been a top 15 or so team regular season wise in NBA history that we've ever seen, which is unreal, you know? But I want to say this when you lose to a 12, 13, and 14 seed in the span of a week, and especially in like just in general, that is just terrible. And really, I don't think Doc Rivers hiring him was a good idea. I mean, they've been so much worse with him. And yes, their old coach, he wasn't really pleasing the locker room, but I'm sure Doc Rivers can't be doing much better. I mean, the team's losing a lot more games. I mean, they were honestly not in contention for the one seed really at the start of the year, but they could have made a dark horse run if they had like they had the slightest chance of hope. But now they're the two seed and they're like 20 games behind the Celtics. You know, it's just I don't think the
Yeah.
Doc Rivers decision was a good move, and I just think this was a really bad idea. I and it looks like they could face the Heat in the first round, and we all remember what happened last year with playoff Jimmy. And if that comes up, I'm probably going to take the Heat in that series. They're playing way better basketball right now, and I don't think there's a chance really that the Bucks even take that series to 7 games. I mean, with the way they're playing right now, they look dead in the water these last couple regular season games and for the playoffs especially, they're really going to have to turn things up if they want to go anywhere past the first round.
Yeah, this is kind of like signs that we've seen with teams in the past that have fallen the first round, like in other sports too. Like we've seen like the Philadelphia Eagles this year, how they started struggling, like they're losing to bad teams and stuff, and they were like, oh yeah, they're gonna lose the first round, lost in the first round, and you can kind of tell, and I kind of feel like that the Bucks will lose first round because the teams that when you're as good as they are and as talented as they are, you should be rolling over the top of teams like the teams that are that much worse than you. Teams that fall and play to the level of their opponents is not that's not good. That's not gonna you're not gonna because when it comes to playoff time and you're playing teams that are, closer to your skill level and closer to where you are, they're gonna kick your butt. They are gonna run right over you. And again, back to the Eagles scenario, they got to the playoffs and they played the Buccaneers, who the Buccaneers obviously aren't some superstar team, but they're pretty good and they kicked their butt. They rolled right over the top of them. They like killed them. And so obviously this is basketball where you have a 7 game series and it's going to be, it's not just one game. So you have a lot of chances. So I don't think they'll get rolled in the series, but I think they could lose, but if they do lose, I think it'll be in like 6 or 7 games. I don't think, if they play the Heat, I don't think the Heat's going to go in there and win 4 games in a row. But I just think, I don't know. Maybe they could turn it around because we've seen teams in the past where we've been like, oh, I don't think they're gonna do well, and then they win the whole thing.
Yeah, we definitely have seen that before, but I don't see it with this Bucks team. They look just like I
Yeah,
said,
I
dead
agree.
in the water.
They do not look good at all. All right, anything else?
Now let's head on to the next segment.
All right, moving on to knock knock. Who's there? What's hot? All right, welcome to knock knock. What's there or who's there? What's hot? And so we got 2 topics right now. A big trade happened in the NFL. Stephon Diggs gets traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans for a third round draft pick. And they also sent the Texans a 6th round pick and another pick somewhere in the draft. But they got Stephon Diggs and 2 draft picks, which I don't even know how they got talked the Bills into that. There has to have been something else going on. But Jace, what does the Stephon Diggs trade mean for, I mean, either team? Because, I mean, this is big for both.
Well, I'm gonna say this: if he's going for a second round pick and they're changing his contract to a 1 year deal, there certainly is something going on. I don't think he's the same player. I mean, we saw him; he only had 400 yards in like what the last 10 games of the last year's season. I mean, that's for a guy who's been considered a top 5 or 10 receiver the last half decade. That's a really bad sign. That could show that he's really slowing down. He's going to be, I think, 31 this year. And really, I think a second round pick is probably a good trade for the Buffalo Bills. I don't really think they could have gotten a first with the production he had at the end of last year and his age. And the fact that the Texans only gave him a 1 year deal kind of shows that he might not be the thing he used to be. But I think he'll still be a good weapon for CJ Stroud and company. I think he'll do great in that offense. I think he definitely suits Houston better than he did Buffalo because Buffalo, I mean, he just constantly complained. I mean, when they would lose, I mean, yeah, it sucks to lose, but when you act like that after every big loss, you're not going to get the respect of your teammates and fans. And I just think Houston should be a better output for him next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that right now, like this coming up season, that this will be a win of the trade for the Texans. But I think in the future, the Bills might win this trade just because that you get rid of Stephon Diggs. Because what if you held on to them this year and he has an awful year, or he has some season-ending injury, and then you can't trade him because nobody wants him. You have it's be a 32-year-old receiver coming off of a torn ACL or something like that, and you're not going to get anything from him. So now you get a second round pick. Where in the second round you could probably get a decent receiver. I mean, we've seen George Pickens come out of the second round and stuff, and so guys like that, and so I think you can a get a receiver out of the second round. You get a young guy. You save more money, and you can, build and get more weapons for Josh Allen. But I think this year they're going to struggle definitely for the Bills, because I just feel like they don't have enough weapons on that offense. And before Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen was really bad. And who knows what's going to happen when he's not there.
Yeah, and I mean, look how much better the Jets got. I don't think the Dolphins are really a worry for the Bills, but I think the Jets are pretty easily the best team in that division right now. I don't think there's much debate, but
As long as Aaron Rodgers goes more than 5 snaps with an ACL
or Achilles, but yeah,
or Achilles,
hopefully so.
Achilles. Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully so, but yeah, things the Bills. I mean, with how tough the AFC is, I think it could be a question that they don't make the playoffs because I mean, think about it. They lost a lot of key pieces on defense, and yeah, those guys aren't healthy most of the year, the last couple of years. But that's usually how they get a lot of their early season wins is from those big players on defense who they lost before they inevitably like tear their ACL or something, of course. But
Yeah, but I think that Stephon Diggs will thrive in that offense with Houston, because now in Houston he has weapons all around him. He didn't have that in Buffalo. I mean, he was the best receiver on that team, and it wasn't even close. In in Houston, he's gonna have Tank Dell and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz and all these like weapons around him, and Joe Mixon and all these guys around them. And obviously CJ Stroud is so unbelievably talented. And CJ Stroud turns the ball over at a way lower rate than than Josh Allen. I think it might even be the lowest rate in football from last year. But point is that he's going to an offense with a lot more weapons. A quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. And I just think that I think he'll thrive because he's not the focal point anymore. There's a lot of other guys. They can't double him because then Nico Collins will be wide open. Oh, wait, they can't double him. Then, it's kind of like what we saw the Chiefs offense a few years ago whenever they had the Legion of Zoom. And it's like you can't guard everybody, everybody, someone's open all the time. So I really think the Texans are going to do really good this year. But we'll see what happens because I don't know how long Stephon Diggs is going to last. All right. So moving on. So the second topic we have for this segment is just uh, yesterday breaking news. Jackson Holiday, the number one prospect in baseball, gets called up by the Orioles. He's going to start tonight, batting ninth Jace. Oh my God, sorry. Jace, what does this mean for the Orioles?
This means the Orioles are certainly going all in. I mean, when a kid like that from the minors comes up so young and so early in his career, you know he's something special. Like we saw with Bobby Witt, he was obviously only in the minors for a few years. And Jackson Holiday, I'm just excited to see him play some baseball. I'm sure he's going to hit a lot of dingers, and I think he'll be a great player for this Orioles team and definitely could propel him to potentially a World Series run. I mean, this Orioles team looks really good so far this year, despite a couple of close losses and a couple of close wins, obviously, over the Royals. And they struggled a little bit in the Pirates series. But I think this team's going to be just A-OK. And I think Jackson Holiday can be a huge part with that. I mean, he'll really up their batting average a little bit for sure. And I think he'll definitely get them a lot of points on the board.
Yeah, I think this was it was a pretty really good move for the Orioles to bring him up because he was mashing in spring training and he was doing it the first like week in AAA. And they've had him for 3 years now, I think, or like a couple years. He was drafted in 2022. So he's been in their system for a little bit. And so get him up here. And not struggles. The Orioles are not struggling at any means right now. They are not struggling. They are 6-4, but that's not where they want to be. They have a team built to be the best team in the league, and that's not where they're at right now. I mean, they're not even in a playoff spot right now, and there's several games back at the Yankees. And so I feel like this is just them bringing up a guy to kind of boost the 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 mood and boost everybody's what's the word?
Morale.
Yes.
Morale.
Yes, boost everybody's morale and get everybody up and hype and get everything going. And this is just, giving the kid a shot. And I think he'll do well putting him at second base because, I mean, they didn't really have an everyday second baseman over there. I mean, it was just whoever you got. So I think that's just really good for the Orioles. I think Jackson Holiday is going to give them a new set of star power in the infield. So,
Yeah.
all right, moving on to our final segment of the day, Around the Corner. So for Around the Corner, we got NBA play-in coming up. Jays, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it looks like the Warriors, Lakers, the maybe Pelicans or Suns, and I believe trying to think here, and the Kings in the West. Well, in the East, we'll have possibly the Sixers and Heat, which will be a really good game. And then the Bulls and Hawks. I think it'll probably be Sixers, Heat, Lakers, and Suns that would make it out of those. And I'm excited for this play in here. It's going to be coming up very soon and should be some good games, right, Caden?
Oh yeah, super good games. I mean, these are some good teams, and they're fighting for their lives right now.
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
mean, this is their chance to make the playoffs. It's a win or go home.
Mhm.
It's not guaranteed to go to the playoffs. So this is their chance to, get in and maybe make a big run. We'll see.
Yeah, and the NFL draft, I mean, that's inching closer each and every day. We'll have a little bit of coverage of that when it comes around. I'm super excited to see where all those great prospects go. Like Caleb Williams, obviously, he's probably going to go to the Bears. Drake May going to go to the Commanders. But after that, it's a mystery probably for most positions
Yeah, the
and
NFL
players.
draft. Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty of where these prospects are going to go. Obviously, we know Caleb Williams is going first overall. I mean, that's not even
Yeah.
a conversation to have. But I mean, it's gonna be great. But we're gonna bring you coverage of it with some videos coming up. But all right, well, that'll bring us to the end of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining episode 8. I've been Caden. This has been Jace, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.